Hey y'all, name's West, Paladin West, and in this video I'm going to show you how to make a pattern for a holster like this using EVA foam. To begin, we've got to get our stuff laid out in order so that you know exactly what you've got. Because we're doing this out of EVA foam, we have this roll, 24 by 60 inches, 4mm EVA foam. There are 3mm widths available. That is the absolute minimum I would recommend. We also have the blaster to work with. For today, we're going to be using this Nerf N-Series Infinity, or rather Affinity. It's also a good idea to have out the belt on which you intend to use your holster with. This will basically help you measure the loop that you're going to be constructed, because this particular design involves making the whole thing out of one single piece of foam. We've got two markers to help us figure out where we're going to cut. We also have a ruler, which is going to help things, considering to get things a little more precise. We also have these brass fasteners. They're normally used to bind sheets of paper together. I thought we might need a hole punch, but it turns out with EVA foam, you don't. So, let's get started. One of the problems with EVA foam is that if it's been in storage for a long time, it can be a little unwieldy to try to work with it when it has a tendency to roll up. So one of the first things you're going to need to do is basically put an opposite roll in it to make it a little easier to work with. Once you're happy that you've got it sufficiently flat that you can work with it, your next step is cut out a piece that is big enough for the holster, but also big enough to allow for mistakes. So we're going to measure about, let's say 2 inches from the edge to about there. So we want the holster to be there, and we will give ourselves about 1.5 inches from there to there. Flip, like that, and we'll mark the edge here. Okay, so we'll want this as flat as possible, and we'll try marking it again. Okay. Now, get a hold. We need to get a hold of our gun belt. And what we want to do is basically mark the top edge. We measure to the top of the holster. In this case, we just basically want here. And we want to measure about 1 inch. So about here, say. Because what we want is to construct a loop. Okay. We're going with the outer mark and drawing a line up. Okay, we're going to do the same thing here, and the reason why is that we want a piece of foam big enough to encompass the thing and easy enough for us to work with, because obviously trying to work straight from this roll is somewhat problematic in that it's a little unwieldy at this size. So smaller size, easier to work with. One of the nice things about EVA foam is that it is very easy to cut with a regular pair of office scissors. Our next step, we're going to basically draw out what we want to work with. Once again, we're going to fold our pistol around this so that we've got an idea of where we're going to make our shape. Okay. We know for a fact that we want our shape to be about here. This is going to give us our margin for where we want the riveting to go. When in doubt, you can afford to be generous. Okay. You basically want to determine which is going to be, whether or not your holster is going to be right-handed or left-handed. Basically, if it's right-handed, then this side is going to be against your body, and this is where you're going to put your belt loop. If you are left-handed, it's of course going to be on this side, and the same thing applies. But also, if it's right-handed, this is the side where you're going to be putting in your shape. So, one of the things that you need to know is where the trigger guard is going to be. Because the trigger guard is going to determine the overall shape of your holster. Let's roll this back over. Okay. We would like the loop for the belt loop to go about here. Where the butt of the pistol is going to be. We need this again, and we need to create a certain amount of space. So, also want to give yourself a little bit of leeway, because what we want is also something like that, because that is going to determine where the rivets are going to go so that we can actually enclose the loop. Okay. Yeah, it's not exact, that's fine. And we're going to go to about here. Okay. What we want to do is we're going to try to draw a shape for the back of the holster. So we're about 10.5 inches, and that's fine. Okay. Okay. Always err on the side of excess. You can trim it down later, but you can't extend it. Remember, this is all going to be one piece. Okay, so let's do a little trimming. Yes, I know the overall shape is probably going to look a little on the rude side with a little imagination, but that's okay. It's because we're not going to stay this shape for long. Moment of truth time. Have we done enough? Answer? Yes, we have. We basically put enough of a margin that we can rivet this and it should still fit. So our next step is to basically create the belt loop, because this is the one time when we've got the space to do it. So what you need is a brass fastener, and you're just going to drive it in straight through. There we go, like that. And just open it up. And you want to basically make this flat as possible. That way you don't have an obstruction when you try to draw the pistol out. Will this fit through our belt loop? Yes, it will. So now the one thing that remains is basically to rivet the holster side. So we will do this we'll pull the holster up just a touch. So, will the gun fit in the holster? Yes, it will. Will the gun with holster fit into the gun belt? Bit of a fit, but yes, it will. Mission accomplished. I happen to be pretty happy with this. It came out the way it did, but what you probably should know is that this is actually my third attempt working with EVA foam. Now, I need to show you a couple of things. This is my first attempt with EVA foam, and as you can tell, it kind of screwed up, mainly because I forgot what side the belt loop was supposed to be on. This one is my second attempt, and while it worked great with this gun, I have to be honest and admit, this was not the gun I built the holster around. This was the blaster I attempted with that one, and it went wrong because I sort of got the seam too thin, with the result that it wouldn't fit that one, but will fit this one. But I'm happy with it because I intend to steampunk this blaster. I'm going to basically do a repaint later on in the summer. But before I do that, my intention is to use this pattern to create a leather holster for this blaster, which is going to be the subject of a future video. So, until that time, this is Paladin West signing off.